You want me to pray?
All right. Just in a moment, as soon as the stream goes live. There it is.
Here, I'm going to spray myself with aura cleaner.
Oh, nice.
Here, I'll spray you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Just in a moment, as soon as the stream goes live. Hold on. Will you mute that, please? All right, almost there, my friend, almost there. Hello to everyone out there in YouTube land. We are just getting ready to start the show. We have the legendary Cathy Norman with us. Nancy Norman is blessing us from the heavens for sure. Just get the Facebook going. What have you did? Show it. Bizarre, you ready for a good show?
A realist believes in miracles. You have to believe in miracles if you're a realist.
You have to.
That's what Anwar Sadat said.
Wow, isn't that something?
Yep.
Okay, almost there.
There's no progress without idealism. Nothing good happens without optimism.
Yes.
Nothing would happen.
Yeah.
What hearts will hit? Okay, we're almost there. Almost there. Share that. Why not? Okay, this is great. Places, everybody. There's 5 people watching already on the stream. Hello, everyone. All right. Cathy Norman, you want to say a prayer for us bless this time together?
Absolutely. Well, let's just tune in, tap in. There is a power and a presence right here, right now. No matter where we all are, we're all connected by that power and that presence, greater than any circumstance, mightier than any condition. And so, dear God, as we just surrender into your energy, into who you are, we know that you love and adore each of us completely. And so we just send a blessing of great love to each other. And for all those who will be listening either right now or later, just to create a beautiful foundation from which to come. So let's just send a blessing to each other and all those that are a part of this podcast. And for this blessing, dear God, we do give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
And sodas.
All right. So, all right. Cathy, you can
Why do you keep touching this?
because you need to press record on the audio.
It's recording.
Oh, wow. Perfect. Now we get that prayer. We can put it on. I'll tell Jeff to put it on the audio. All right. All right. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Overture, curtain, lights.
Are you going to...
What? Oh, Cathy, you can turn your camera off also. Thank you. All right.
Are you ready to start the show?
Ready to start the show, buddy?
We have YouTubers online?
YouTubers online.
All right. Welcome to The Funniest Thing.
Yes.
Where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
That's right.
I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Oh, boy.
Funniest Thing.
Funniest Thing. Today's show is called Funniest Thing with the Reverend Cathy Norman. Funniest thing is the exclamation that many people will say when something unexpected happens that coincides with a desire of theirs. Funniest thing, the person who interviewed me for that job I really want grew up in the same town and we had a great time reminiscing. Funniest thing, I had trouble finding a parking space, but when I finally did, the person getting out of the car next to me was someone who I haven't seen in years and was just thinking about. Funniest thing, we had an unexpected bill and a day later we received an unexpected check as a gift from a family member in the same amount. What if these coincidences weren't just coincidences at all? What if you had something to do with causing these serendipitous and seemingly miraculous outcomes? For centuries, philosophers have said we do. On this episode, Darrell and Ed reveal and discuss the secret to living a charmed life. The secret being our attitude. Your attitude, your mental approach to any situation is the combination of your thoughts and feelings about it. Those who proceed with a faithful attitude, one of gratitude and joyful expectancy, seem to enjoy more good luck than those who proceed with a fearful attitude, aka morbid expectancy. Why is this so? Because our thoughts produce feelings and feelings equal vibration. And it's the universe's job to match your vibration. Good and faithful thoughts produce good feelings, and these good vibrations make us magnetic to good results. During the second segment, Reverend Cathy Norman elevates our thoughts and feelings with today's reading, Imagination is Prayer. I think we have a different reading. It is actually called... What's it called?
It could work with this.
All right, Imagination is Prayer.
Because those titles are just placeholders.
Yeah. So...
are we going to kick it off with 3 breaths? Because it really sets the tone of a good attitude. Is this affirmation?
That's so true.
Because it helps us believe something. And no, I want to say that it gets our mind, it gets our thoughts and our feelings aligned with the truth of our being and a spiritual principle.
What about the governing email? Not email. Reading that.
Governing.
I think that governing email. When we take the government off of our own shoulders.
Okay,
that's
kind
of what this. That's kind of what this is about.
And then we'll do the.
Yeah.
So, if you are new to listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, we often read from readings that we each do in the morning. We have our own little morning practices, and we recommend that you do as well. And do so before you throw on your helmet and race into your day. That you take the time. I get up before my wife and have been for years. And I just get my coffee, sit on my favorite spot on the couch, and read from some spiritual books. And you could find these morning readers just about anywhere. And pick the one that speaks to you. And we like them because they give short little daily messages, which is just enough to get your mind moving in harmony with the truth, which is the harmony of the universe, the positive stream of life. So one of these books is called Around the Year with Emmett Fox. And we got 2 little readings. One of them is from today, and one of them, and a little bit from one from yesterday. Okay, so here we go.
Today's January 4th.
Yes,
right?
That would be January 4th and I'm sorry, what am I saying? January 4th and January 3rd is the piece, right? Is
one
that
of them was no? I think it's the 5th and the 4th. The one isn't that one about the governor? Let's see.
No, it's this one.
The one about...
Yeah, it's over here. The government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the 3rd and the 4th.
Let her rip.
All right. So here we go. For Isaiah says that the name of the child, and it's talking about the child, the name of the Christ within, is known as a child being born within us when we wake up to the fact that God is in us.
Yeah. Okay.
So First, Isaiah says the name of the child is wonderful. The word wonderful used here requires careful scrutinization. As employed in the Bible, it implies a miracle, just that and nothing less. The Bible repeatedly says that miracles can happen, and it gives detailed and circumstantial accounts of many specific cases. Moreover, it says that miracles always will happen if you believe them to be possible. I mean, it's that simple, folks. Just believing that they're possible and are willing to recognize the power of God and to call upon it. As soon as the child is born in your consciousness, the miracle will come into your life. This does not mean simply that you will become resigned to your present circumstances, or that you will then be enabled to meet the same difficulties with a higher courage or a clearer brain. It means the miracle. It means, and this is just my note to myself, as I change with a belief in God doing the work, my circumstances change. Everything miraculously transforms to the better. That's how this stuff is so simple. Most people, including me, when I was first introduced to it, thought, really? It's that simple? That sounds too good to be true. Well, most spiritual principles and truth seems too good to be true because of what we hear and what we've learned and what we decided for ourselves for most of our life. That life's a struggle. You got to fight for what you want. You got to work hard to get it. And then once you get it, you got to work hard to keep it so you don't lose it. And that's really not the case. But it's hard to believe it's this simple at first, and that's the reason why. The other reading is from January 3rd. Once you have contacted the power within and have allowed it to take over your responsibilities for you, it will direct and govern all your affairs from the greatest to the least without mistakes. The government shall be upon his shoulder. And that's a quote from the Bible. You are tired and driven and worried and weak and ill and depressed because you've been trying to carry the government upon your own shoulder. The burden is too much for you, and you have broken down under it. Now, immediately, you hand over your self-government. That is the burden of making a living, or of healing your body, or of erasing your mistakes to the child. He is the tireless one, the all-powerful, the all-wise, the all-resourceful, and he assumes it with joy, and your difficulties have seen the beginning of the end. And the Bible verse is Psalm 55, verse 22. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. And another way of saying cast the burden is cast the concern. That's what we're talking about. I got to cast the concern, and the concern is my outlining. Every time I go into a situation, and everyone, man's a thinking being. He cannot help but to imagine, to image everything we're walking into. We begin to image it. We begin to imagine it. We imagine ourselves in it, and we imagine the circumstance and how we perceive it, depending on whether we're approaching it with fear or faith. And it's human nature to approach everything that's new with apprehension and concern. However, if you're willing to give this an experiment, and that's what metaphysical and practical spirituality is all about. It's about applying it in your life and seeing if it works. So I'm always doing this. I have to switch from the concern. Sometimes I'll just say, I treat the concern. I'm just going to let go of the concern. And the situation will either unravel miraculously without me doing anything, or I'll get an inspired thought that feels delightful about something I can do to the point of I want to do it. And that one little thing, as long as I choose to do it, seems to transform the whole situation. Always better than expected.
Yep. I love it. All right. So we get into our breaths here. I read this from Florence Scovel-Shinn because when I heard Darrell reading and talking, it just reminded me of everything I've been reading lately. Is just reminder that we need to use denials and affirmations.
Yes.
We need to deny the false beliefs that are active in our consciousness.
Yes.
And then from there, affirm once those deny the falseness and meditate and let it go, get into a peaceful state. And then once we're in that flow, then we can affirm the good. And because Darrell was saying, it's like our mind is our subconscious mind is literally like a computer running a program. So what God has in store, my mind, because of its old beliefs, like Darrell was saying, is literally going to tell me that this is too good to be true, or that what I'm doing is wrong, because it's basically like a calculator. Based on the old calculations, what I am doing is wrong. Based on those old calculations, there is no hope. But I'm not using those old calculations that were just a mismatch of just fearful thoughts that got poured in there. Now we're clearing that out of the way, because there is something called principle, divine principle, and it is true. And there is no lack, there's no sickness, there's no trouble. In those principles do not generate that. In those principles are about love, flow, of affluence, right? Joy, expansion, wow. And we tap into those by being in a good mood, taking a good attitude toward. But the hardest part is the temptation of these old beliefs that are so loud and doing our best to convince me, hey, you can't do that. What are you doing?
You know what Prentice Milford said?
What did Prentice Milford say about this?
I think people should, we'll drill this into their heads, because this is a good one.
Yeah.
There is very little difference among people, but that little difference makes a big difference.
Yes.
And that little difference that makes a big difference is attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And attitude, like is in our description, it's our mental approach to life. The thoughts and feelings we have about what we're walking into, how we're either walking into, or sometimes when we're reminiscing about the past.
Yes.
Ed brought up the use of denials, and in a book by James A. Decker, who was a Unity author. I'm not sure if he was a minister, but we know he was an author. What Will You Have is the title of the book. And he says this: there are 2 steps in overcoming any undesirable condition. 1, denying the reality of the seeming evil. And 2, letting in the reality of good. Now that's nice to hear, because this is implying the truth that the good is waiting on our acceptance, whether it's a financial windfall, whether it's a healing. It's just waiting for my acceptance. But the only way I can accept it is I got to be willing to let go of my hanging on to, I don't know if I'm ever going to get well. And, people go, well, why would you ever not want to get well? Well, because subconsciously there's all these twisted ideas that we've heard about getting well. Some of people think it's virtuous to be sick. God sent it for a reason. I've heard that.
Yep.
Or what do they say about what's it called when you're arrogantly expecting something?
Like, who am I to expect this, or something like that?
Yeah, there's a word for it, but yes. Who am I to think that God will heal me?
Right.
That's outrageous. That's blasphemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's not true.
That's right.
Our bodies are always healing.
That's right.
This life force is God itself.
Right.
So we should always be grateful for it.
Right.
And when we start thinking this way, and I do it, folks. I was talking to a neighbor of mine who said, she's concerned about her health right now.
Right.
It's funny because it's a neighbor you saw yesterday. And you said, oh, does that lady live in the house on the end of the block? And I said, how did you know that?
Oh, yeah?
Do you remember?
No. Where were we?
Oh, we were walking. I'll fill you in. That'll remind it. But anyway, she was telling me about her health, and we had a little chat and a little laugh about it, about, how hard it is to let go of these ideas that we're not going to get better.
Right.
And I said, it's not everyone who's like that, because Lori, my wife, when she gets sick, she doesn't immediately think it's leukemia.
Right, sure.
She naturally just thinks like a kid, I'm going to get over this,
Yep.
you know? But that's what the lesson we need to learn. Not everyone's at the same place. She might have more, and I know she does, over some other things where her concern gets the better of her, where mine doesn't even consider it a concern.
Right.
And that's another good thing to realize. If these fears were based in reality, we would all have the same fear.
That's right.
Not everyone's afraid of heights. Some people can walk on the peak of my roof. I've seen them do it, the roofers.
Right.
Like it's nothing.
Right.
I get up on the edge and I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to move.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm talking the edge, meaning the flat surface where my feet are still on the ladder.
I get it. Yeah.
So this is all stuff to consider when we start telling ourselves these stories that this is too good to be true. This fear is real. And that's where denials are important.
Dude, yes.
To just say it to our mind. Ed talks about it on the past few shows and makes it so easy to grasp, where you're just telling him, I know, we're not thinking that way anymore. How's some of the ways you put it? Because you do a really good job. I was using one of them. I wrote it down when you said it, when things come up for you.
Well, yeah.
At first you tell yourself, okay, I hear you.
Right.
But we're not going that way anymore. How do you do it? Because it was
That's
positive.
a great question, man. I know it works because yesterday and only recently have I fully been enjoying and understanding the power of denial. Yesterday I was calling it power washing my mind.
That's nice.
Because I sat down because I realized.
We ever see that hose?
Yeah.
Like it's super, they clean concrete
Yeah.
with it. I want to power wash my mind.
The way it was been working is I had to sit and relax because anytime I've lived a life that in the past, this undue sense of urgency was just par for the course for me. And a winning day would be somehow I overcame the urgency or whatever I was doing. But now I realize, like, really first and foremost, that sense of undue urgency is coming from fear and it's not real. It's not even happening. So power washing that out by yesterday meditating and denying everything. Once I get into a meditative state, so like I'm calm and I'm quiet, then I start to talk to those, okay, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That is no longer true for me. And sometimes it's at first I don't believe my voice is going to be heard, but I just start putting like a little bit of light into the darkness that is in there. And just start making my voice heard. I don't believe that. That is not true for me. And when I do it, it starts to lift the whole weight of what I've been resentment, lack, struggle, judgment. It's because the denial part is about learning that there's no value at all in these ideas that are born out of angst and fear, undue urgency. Like there's nothing really happening. And yet I'm running around as if there is. It's such like when I see it and when I catch it and realize that there is a principle of good and nothing else is real, everything else is being generated from my imagination. So one of the things I say sometimes is, you know what? None of this means anything to me when those limiting thoughts arise, or I don't even recognize these thoughts. And if it's about someone else, I don't even know who those thoughts are talking about. They're not talking about me. They're not talking about Darrell. I don't even recognize these thoughts as real. And doing that will save me so much work because lately I've been waking up in the morning going, oh my God, everything, thank God I didn't act out of that fear because actually I'm living in heaven on earth right now. And then the next part of what it gets me into is affirming what's been working for me this week is affirming something amazing is about to happen or something amazing is happening now. So first I deny, okay, I'm not even interested in it. Even with the show, like before the show, I've been prepared, I'm ready to go. This other voice starts to come up and starts to judge me. Oh, I judge everything else. Why am I doing this? Today, because of the show, I started going, this doesn't even mean anything to me. What are these thoughts? This is nothing. And I relaxed back into my body, into the energy of God, into the truth, which is that I am well prepared to do the show. Because whenever I can get myself to affirm with a whole heart that something amazing is happening now, it is turns out to be true because it is true. It is principle that something amazing is happening now. And when Tom Thorpe was on the show, he said, there's a Bible quote where he says, where God says to give, where Jesus says, I think it says, give thanks in all circumstances, give thanks. It's I don't know if it was Psalms or something. In all circumstances, give thanks.
Yes.
And he said, not for all circumstances, because you don't give thanks for these nightmares you're imagining. But in the midst of what seems to be a nightmare, find things to give thanks about, and the nightmare turns out to be untrue. The nightmare dissolves. And that's when the funniest things start to happen, because they're miracles, because they go against all these fearful ideas we have about life. None of those things are true. We're constantly relearning. I'm constantly relearning about who I am and what this universe is.
And one little last thing I went through this week, just briefly before we bring on Cathy, is I made a decision this week. I felt excited about it. You know, the trade-in, my lease was coming up.
Oh, yes.
But I love this car that I had on the lease, and I was considering purchasing it to own, and it would be a lot cheaper than getting a new car. But it had an issue with its brakes every year. Something was going on here. And I just thought, well, I love everything about this car. It's only the brakes, so I'll pay that little extra year. Finally, the issue with the brakes was coming up. I took it to a repair shop, and it got me, after the repair, there was still an issue. So I was so disheartened by it. I talked to Lori, and she goes, well, maybe this is God pushing your hand. Right after that, I get a text message from the dealership letting me know about these year-end deals, you know?
Yeah.
And normally I would just go, oh, right, yeah, year-end deals.
Right.
But I said, wait a minute. Okay, let me just let this settle in. Ed and I do a quick Patreon workshop or a Zoom call for the
which
Patreon.
ended at like 4:30.
4:30.
On New Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So I told Ed, I said, I think I'm going to go down there and look at these new cars.
Yep.
I go down there. It was the most seamless trade-in purchase, the pricing, everything that I ever experienced, except the last time went pretty well too, but this was just like boom, boom, boom.
They were finding things to take off of the price instead of add to the price, which is a miracle.
It was incredible because I was totally surrendered. I wasn't fighting, trying to manipulate a better deal. Like, it was so incredible because they kept taking thousands of dollars off the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then they kept giving me bonuses and incentives, you know, that they didn't even realize. They go, oh, he missed you on this one. This is the finance guy.
Right.
The sales guy. I found one. He holds it up. He goes, they forgot to give you your military discount. Long story short, the next day or so, I have a hangover, meaning I'm thinking, oh, did I make the right decision?
Sure.
You know, because it's a little more, it's more than what I've been paying. Buyer's remorse. And I had to remind myself, Darrell, none of this is true. But it would pucker up.
Yeah.
I'd feel great for a while, and then it'd pucker up. And then, I should have been more looking for the better color than the color I got, even though it's like a basic color. It's white. It looks fine. It's not like I got some crazy, you know, lime green or chartreuse. But the thing is, I had to let my mind know this principle, which is there are no mistakes. Every decision I made was the best decision. This is an Emmett Fox reading I've been reading for years. It was the best decision I could have possibly made at that time. And even if it turns out to seemingly not be the best decision, it always turned out in the long run to be the best decision. I didn't get jobs that I thought was the worst thing that could happen. Turned out it led into me getting something better. I get laid off, and I think this is the worst thing. 30 days later, Lori gets laid off. Oh my God, what next? Turned out to lead to the most incredible experiences for the both of us. And we both ended up in more lucrative and more, and doing things we loved even more.
Yep.
One time I bought a brand new car for my 50th. What do you call that? When you think you're not cool anymore?
50th birthday?
Midlife crisis.
Oh, midlife crisis. Yeah, yeah.
So I got the Camaro.
Yep.
I had that for 3 years, and then it started giving me problems, and I bought it to own it.
Right.
And I didn't even know this thing existed, this lemon law. But next thing you know, they paid for the car in full from me.
Incredible.
After I enjoyed it for 3 years. But if I had, that's what we got to remind ourselves. Even when we think, oh my God, I just shot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
You cannot keep beating yourself up. Ed read it last week from Emma Curtis Hopkins.
Yeah.
Once I start calling myself a dummy, I did the wrong thing, I'm an idiot. What did she say?
She says that's the only fall there is.
That's it.
Is when we condemn ourselves or other people of ignorance. And I've been, reading that and living by that. See, the funniest things happen when we put our faith in the principle that God is always good, even when our own imagination starts conjuring up nonsense. And this is the whole thing. And if you can live it, and if you can do it, and put the rubber to the road, and build the right people around you, they're already there.
They're
We're
going to
here.
come into your life.
Yeah, they'll come into your life. Don't worry about it. Just keep blessing the situation. And sometimes your mind's going to feel like it's going to pop. It's out of fear, but it won't. That's all a lie. There's nothing to fear. The good will happen. The funniest thing happens. Joseph Murphy said, a magic formula for building self-confidence and success is to look in the mirror in the morning and then for about 5 minutes affirm, if God be for me, who can be against me? I can do all things through the God power which strengthens me. Make it a habit of this and you'll be full of self-confidence and faith in all things good, and wonders will happen in your life. Got to do your morning routine. You got to supercharge your brain, your mind with positive expectation up front.
And power wash it.
Power wash it when you need to.
Yes.
When things feel like they're really going bad, they're not. Your mind's just telling you they are. Power wash your mind, use some denials, and reaffirm what's right. Let's see here. Let's just thank the Patreon people real quick. Susan Sly said, hey guys, thanks so much for doing this. Happy days. We had a great Patreon. Susan was there, and so was Krista McAvina. On YouTube, Lois Conklin said, great show. So much good conversation. Listening is my morning routine today, December 31st. Love you and Happy New Year. Facebook, Grace Deathridge said, wishing and placing faith in a very Happy New Year to both of you and all your loved ones. That was from Grace Deathridge. Then the funniest thing, mailbox, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California. We got a nice card. That's for Christmas, warm winter wishes. May this time of year sparkle with cheer, peace, and happiness and delight. New Jersey is still with you. Peace and blessings from Jackie Goodall, and she gave us a nice contribution.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah. We got, who is this one from? Oh, from Grace Deathridge, wishing you all a wonderful Christmas. Thank you for all you do. That was a nice postcard in our mailbox.
Yep. War is over if you want it.
Yeah. Don't pick up, bleep, says Kirk Chelson on this postcard. He says, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Note that Proverbs does not say we are as we think we are. Quite the contrary. It says we are as we think. Here is a vast difference. We might imagine ourselves to be very clever while remaining quite dull. But if our thoughts are brilliant, we also will be brilliant, said Ernest Holmes.
Brilliant.
Want to send us something? P.O. Box, funniest thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. Shout out to the man who makes our audio podcast work. His name's Jeff Comfort, and each week
He takes us
right into the
comfort zone. Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath to clear our mind. Once you power wash your mind, and even if you don't have time to power wash it, sometimes you just got to dummy down and accept truth as truth, and it will happen. So the tide has turned to stay, for God has right of way.
The tide has turned to stay, for God has right of way.
The tide has turned to stay, for God has right of way.
And Emma Curtis Hopkins also said, if you have trouble with the word God, sometimes it's better to use the word good.
Good. That's right. All we got to do is let that tide turn. It wants to turn. Let it turn. Coming up next, Reverend Cathy Norman elevates our thoughts and feelings with today's reading. Imagination is prayer. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland. All right. Are you going to tinkle?
Yeah, are you going to let Cathy know she can
Yes.
unmute?
You go tinkle. Cathy will unmute.
There we go. Do you want me to undo my video too?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Come on.
There we go.
Yeah, Darrell's going to tinkle.
So I was as I was listening to you guys, I glanced over because I'm still in the middle of boxes from
Yeah.
Mom's place, you know.
Yeah,
Look what I thought, what is that?
Aww.
Isn't that nice?
That is so nice. I think I have something similar. Hold on one second. That is so cool. We did have one. It wasn't here. Oh. Great minds. Boom.
Oh, I love it.
That's so sweet. Oh my God.
I know, it was just staring at me. I thought
Wow.
what is that?
That's amazing. I
I
love that
know.
room you're in, by the way. That looks so warm and
Oh,
lovely.
thank you. Yeah, this is my office and I changed it around. I like to change it like every few months.
Oh yeah, it looks great. Yeah, that's where my wife is. I come home, and as I'm walking through the front, up the front steps, I just see like a giant sofa somehow moving across the living room, and she's like, I was busy. I don't know how she does it, but
It is. It's fun. It's just
I love
something
it.
different. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I love the
Good.
feeling of a new room and the new setup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, we
Yeah.
had to get rid of some of our stuff to bring Mom's stuff in. So we've been in a purging process.
All right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good though. That means a lot of big things are coming, right?
Oh, yeah. A lot of it's in the garage right now. It's
Yeah.
Steve's job to clean that out.
Nice. Oh my gosh, I just got a text. I'm sending love to my friend Fred and his mother. It's just his mother just passed.
Oh,
So sorry I don't want to be my attention split, but I just wanted to send him a note of love, let him
yes.
know we're blessing him. Um,
Yep. Is your mom still around? She
yeah,
is, right? Yep.
yeah, she's
Where
a
does she live?
powerhouse. She lives in Orange County.
Hmm.
Yeah, you ready?
That's nice. Close by.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, my dad and my mom are down there. Um, and yeah, my mom goes to mass every day. She's devout Catholic.
Good for
So
her.
she's praying for us all the time, which is amazing.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Are you a heathen in her eyes or you're good?
I think we've come a long way. In the beginning, there was a lot of, question marks, but
Yep.
there were some funny little things funniest things that happened along the way, such as us reading out of the Message Bible, and then my mom was freaked out about that the first time she heard the show. But Darrell happened to be standing next to me when she called me to tell me she was apologizing to the family for telling them to listen, and then
Because Ed was reading from the Devil's Bible.
but then Darrell goes, tell her that a nun gave it to you.
Because
And I
a
go,
nun
oh my
gave
God,
us-
I forgot to tell you, a nun gave me this
She
Bible.
thought because we were reading from the Message Bible, which I never heard of until a nun said, I put all my books on my iPad. So I have the Message Bible, which is my favorite Bible. I refer to it all the time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give it to you as a gift. And I said, awesome. So we were reading from that. Ed's mother calls him, berates him, and tells him how she had to call all the family members and tell him, turn it up. He's the devil's concubine. And I said, Ed, did you tell her that Bible I got given to us from a nun, and that's a Bible they sell at the Catholic bookstore?
Oh
And then
my
all of a
gosh.
sudden, okay. But after that, she had already panicked and told everyone that Ed was the devil's concubine.
That is so funny.
Ed was the devil's concubine. Did you find that in that box?
Well, because Cathy showed me she has the same one.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I was listening to you guys, because I'm still living amongst boxes and such, And I thought, wait, what is that? And I reached over
Yeah, we have it too.
and
This morning, I was thinking, does Kathy have this? Because this is the most joyful picture of all of us.
I
I
know,
can't believe you have it too. Good.
I know. So I'm going to frame it.
All right, perfect. All right, let's bring this show back on the road here for the audio portion. All right, welcome back to Funniest Thing. Today's show is called Funniest Thing, and we have the perfect person who loves funniest things and loves miracles and loves quantum leaping and loves these teachings, loves these principles, teaches them like no other. We're huge fans. We happen to be friends as well. Her name is Reverend Cathy Norman. How are you today?
I am good. Happy New Year.
Oh,
Happy
happy
New
New Year to
Year.
you also. So,
Happy New You, listeners.
yes,
Yes,
happy New
indeed.
You.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
I wanted to just share one thing. You know this book, Science of Successful Living?
Yeah. Raymond Charles Barker.
Man,
Yes.
every paragraph is packed, isn't it? And
Yeah.
he says, strange that we have come to a place where extreme pressures are considered normal. Yet you will be noticed for the way you accomplish without strain. Knowing that God in you is the ability to do what needs to be done without pressure, you radiate a quiet, effective confidence. I mean, this changed my life because there's a lot of things that I do, like in my job or this show or whatever I'm doing as a parent when my son, that once I realized I don't need to know how to do it, like God in me knows how, like that. I mean, the part of me that has access in that moment is trying to figure, like, once I realized that that's not a prerequisite for me to do something, it
Hmm.
changes everything, right?
And one of the things that I always have to remind myself of is that the universe brings our manifestations through the path of least resistance. And the
Ah,
path of least resistance is how allowing are you? You
Right.
know, you don't have to know the how, the who, the when, but the human side of us wants to figure it all out, like how. But if we just allow, the universe can come in through the path of least resistance. Tomorrow I'll be talking about this, and what inspired me was I had to clean out my emails from being away. And as I'm cleaning out my emails, I see all these emails that say, "Thank you for your order," because I did a lot of shopping, for this season. And I thought, isn't that the way the universe works? We put in our order, the universe says, "Thank you for your order." But what messes up the delivery is when we are like, well, how's it going to get there?
Yeah.
And we want to manipulate, we want to,
oh,
tell the driver, the UPS driver how to get here or whatever, we're in concern or worry or fear or whatever that might be. And as we are doing all of that, it blocks the universe from coming through the path of least resistance. So it really is one of those things that I still, every once in a while, it's like, how is this going to happen? Well, I talked about it right before we got on air, where I was, I'm going to be taking over my mom's online ministry. And my first thing this morning when I woke up was, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to do this. And both of you were so encouraging, like, you know, your mom was 87 years old. She knew how to do it. So it's the path of least resistance. I know that, you will attract the right people. The right people always come in at the right time to guide
yes.
you to your next step. It's always like that. And Darrell, I can't wait to see your car tomorrow if you're going
Oh,
to be there, because
oh
I
yeah.
really would like to see you did that through the path of least resistance. And when you go through just allowing, then the universe has the miraculous to present to you, like, okay, we're going to deduct this much from your
Yeah.
car, it's and all you have to do is just sit there and watch, basically. And of
Well,
Right.
course, always follow inspired guidance as well.
yeah.
It wouldn't have happened unless you went down there.
It also happens too when I make the decision ahead of time that I'm going to cooperate with this inspired idea, because I had been going to the dealership and going back and forth with them because, like I mentioned, my lease is coming up. And it was like, it always felt like a struggle because I was perceiving I was going into the situation as if I had to protect myself. There was concern over, am I going to get ripped off? Am I going to get the right price? And it was making it more difficult to the point where I was like, oh, what am I going to do if I stay with this car, if I give it up? Doing like what you're saying, like my mind isn't allowing the path of least resistance to work on my behalf. But when it got to this past Tuesday, which was New Year's Eve, and the right people came in at the right time. Number one, the seemingly negative thing was I was still having an issue with the car mechanically. Two, when I mentioned it to Lori, she just said, like an angel means messenger. She said, well, this is probably God pushing your hand. And I just thought, all right, I'm going to accept that. And by the time I saw Ed and we did our Patreon, and I wasn't concerned about the issue. I was just like, we're doing our podcast talk. My mind naturally, like we said at the beginning of the show, it allowed the enthusiasm, the good to come in you should just drive to the dealer now. And when I got there, I wasn't like defending myself. I didn't feel like I had to defend myself. First of all, as soon as we saw the car, I said, well, what about this one? There's the sticker price, and then there's all the dealer add-ons. This is something that car dealers have been doing the past 10 years or so, where they add on automatically. Whereas before they would ask you, do you want this on? Do you want that on? So now it bumps it up like $5,000 to $10,000 from the MSRP. As soon as we get to the car, he goes, well, forget about all this. Like, because this was something I always had to overcome, like dealing with that issue. Like, I don't want any of those things, but they're already on the car. So then you have to negotiate. He said, you know what? We're just going to forget about these, and we're just going to go from the MSRP. So I won't even think about those. And I'm going, how is this happening? Because before I would be prepared to deal with that, Then we get in the car, we test drive it, we get back, and they tell me the trade, my car's coming in, the lease, and they still, even though it's a return on the lease, the way he worked it out was in a way in which it was like a trade-in. So I was getting compensation from that. And then I'm not saying a word about, can we do this? Can we do that? It was amazing how God was doing all the heavy lifting. I cast the burden miraculously, and I'm saying it's miraculously because this doesn't happen all the time, folks. A lot of the time I have to consciously cast the burden in the process, and it's a back and forth. But this was one of those times, and I've had these times, not as often as I would like, but I've had them enough to know this is one of those experiences where my mind just didn't want to hold on anymore and just went with it. And it was one thing after the other. Thank you for your order. Oh, all the way up until when we got to the finance guy, and by now the price is set in stone, usually. And he's pointing things out. Well, this wasn't figured out, right? So that's going to be on your behalf. Normally it was incredible. And then we're polishing it, and it was, wait, I found one more thing here. Look. And he holds up the sheet of paper, and it's the military. They forgot to do that on that. It just kept getting, lower by, $5, $10 on the monthly payment, coming down, which is a lot off the car because, $1 on a monthly payment could be 1,000 or two on the car, what it's equivalent to. So this is like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. The universe is always giving out little breadcrumbs, and all you do is just, it's like an open door. Okay, I'll go through that door. I'll go
Yeah.
through that door. And as you do, then you're in the right place. If the door closes, if there's resistance, the universe is just telling you, turn right.
Yes.
You
Amen.
know, go to the next door. But it's constant. These opportunities are constant. They never stop. So that's what's so wonderful about, being in partnership, co-creating with God rather than just resisting all the time.
Yeah. I was raised by a dad who was a fighter. And I mistakenly believed you have to go around life, constantly, with your dukes up. But for me, I realized, wait a minute, this isn't turning me into a fighter. This is turning me into a flincher. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Things would happen.
yeah.
I'm like, oh no. It was turning me. You think you're going through life like a fighter, but really the fighting is an indication of fear. My dad and I, was afraid of life. He was
Mm.
afraid of life. He was afraid to be vulnerable because he didn't have faith. Like, I'm just so blessed to have met the people I've met that have given me introduced me to a way of perceiving life through the eyes of a faith that I could rely on, that joyful expectancy in a God that's benevolent, and the universe is benevolent, and I could just put my fist down and say, yes, here I am, instead of, uh-oh, what if? It's a big difference.
Hmm. And then when you are in the flow of that, even what may not look real good is still orchestrating you to be in the right place at the right time. I
Yes.
know that when Steve and I bought our place in Ojai, we assumed, the law of assumption. You just assume, you take on the idea of, whatever it is that you want. And we kept going to open houses and such. And then finally, I went to Trader Joe's, and in the neighborhood that we are in now, but it was the one that we wanted to buy our house in. I was in Trader Joe's, and it just turned out that there was somebody there that said, "Hey, we haven't told anybody. We want you and Steve to know there is a house that's in probate in our neighborhood." It was the worst house. It was overgrown. It was awful. And Steve and I broke into the house, and Steve said, "This is it. We can do something with this." And I said, "Are you kidding?" It was rat infested and all that. It's awful. And I said, "Well, if that's what you think, everything, the open doors financially, everything for us to get it, the realtor, he kept getting more and more bids on it, and he closed all of the bids, and he said, 'No, this house belongs to the two of you.'" And he was getting
Wow.
all cash offers. It
Wow.
was like, how did this even happen? And so when you live in, the path of least resistance, if you're
Yes.
just, that's how the universe can keep opening up these doors,
Yeah.
to be in the right place at the right time. So yeah, even what looks impossible is possible.
Yeah.
It's just being in a state of allowing and assuming, people that maybe are wanting a relationship, but if you assume you're already in one, the
Yeah.
universe can come through that. The universe can answer that. Or if you're looking for a home,
Yeah.
the law of assumption, you're just assuming, and it just allow it to come through and be that vibratory match for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's the decision. That's what I was trying to get across by saying I made decision at 4:30, meaning I was assuming that this is it. You know, tonight I'm going to be in a new car.
Yeah, when you left, we both knew
Yes.
it too. It was
Yeah.
so clear.
Oh, and then, yes, and then even when the guy was giving me better deals, like the managers was actually a salesperson when I bought the car that I was turning in, and he was such a great salesman, not pushy. I mean, it was an incredible experience. It was a good experience, similar to this one. But he came by again and he was telling, showing me numbers and stuff. And I said, well, look, I go, I'm going to get a car today. I didn't even mind because don't tell him, don't
Right.
show him your head.
Yeah.
But I was so high about going with the flow. I said, look, we're going to make a deal tonight. Normally you're not, don't never tell them that, make them work for you. I was done with all that. And what happened? It worked out way better. The price was under the MSRP. And all those other $5,000 of add-ons was tossed out the window. I mean, it's incredible how this works.
Yes.
I think you're Nancy Norman.
Yeah.
She was the one who would point out. Nancy Norman is Cathy's mom, by the way. A lot of our listeners are familiar with her. She's been on the show many times as a guest.
Yep.
So look her up.
Yeah, some of her congregation is part of our listenership as well.
So
I love it.
She would quote a Catherine Ponder.
Oh,
Catherine
yeah. She
Ponder,
loved Catherine Ponder.
a
Yeah.
great prosperity teacher. We highly recommend any of her books. If you want to get started with Catherine Ponder, good place to start is The Prospering Power of Love. It's a thin little book and it'll kick you right upstairs. Well, anyway, she would quote Catherine Ponder, who said, results always follow decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Things begin to line up and fall into line with our decision.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
And
so
the decision
right.
is the assumption.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically saying, I'm putting in my order. When we make a decision, we're putting in our order.
Yep. Thank you for your order.
Yeah. Yeah, The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker is another great book. And
Yes.
one of the things I've been doing every day, as a suggestion from his, is to say, I have decided to be happy. I have a right to be happy. If anyone can be happy, I can be happy. I have the same mind and emotions that they do. And I now demand that my subconscious mind use all of its power to make me happy. And then there's different chapters about, so I add on, I have a right to be happy, healthy, rich, and creative, which are the four of the things he talks about in that book. And so I've been doing that because every day I come back to that. So no matter what the surface of my mind starts to get into, I come back to these things can't be true because I've made the decision to be happy, healthy, rich, and creative. And the other day I was like, okay, how can I take this another step? So I said, how am I happy right now? Let me check in with these four things. And so then as I checked in with each one, I saw the ways I was happy and I saw the things I needed to let go of in that moment. I saw the ways I'm already healthy and I released any concern about the little things. I see the ways that I'm rich and I took inventory of all of those things. And then I see the ways that I'm creative and I noted, I wrote a column today or I played a song today. And it just reaffirmed these decisions, and they really are decisions. It's restructuring my whole life around these decisions that I'm making. The power washing part is so important to get the denial part, because you can't, if I'm out here nervous and I got to make a decision, I'm making it, I have to relax, power wash, all the stuff that's in between me and the awareness that there's only God, that there's only good, and I am completely responsible for the way I'm experiencing life. How much am I tapping into it? How much am I letting come through? How much am I resisting or not resisting? The responsibility isn't mine to create. It's mine to how much am I aligned with who I truly am in my thinking, so that the good that I desire can come out naturally and easily. And it's such a relief when I'm running around. Recently, I would run around with my head cut off. I didn't realize how tired I was when I had a couple weeks off. When I realized what I really needed was the biggest treat I gave myself was to stop running around and sit in my chair and just go, this chair is
Hmm.
amazing. Letting go. And maybe on some of these things, it's the first time in my life I have said for myself in this way, you know what? That is not true for me in any way. And
Yeah.
just let it go. Just keep
Yeah.
letting it go. Because if anyone out there is listening, go, yeah, but that's just something to power wash. Yeah, but I this. No one's saying it but you. No one
Hmm.
else is saying those limiting things but me. If they are, it's because I've been saying them so long, they're just parroting them back. But for the most part, the things that are disturbing my peace are just stories I'm making up, ideas I've made up. Stop making them up. Because last
Hmm.
night when I went to bed, I did the inventory thing, and I realized my mind was making up really bad like scenarios about what might happen, and it was so clear. I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? I'm using my imagination, and of course I'm going to have reactions and whatever. What a way to use my imagination to block my good by just imagining that whole, it's such a delight to just stop imagining this stuff for a little while and then let the imagination take over once I remember that all is well and that all is,
Hmm.
yeah.
And you that's a great point, Ed. And one of the things about making a decision, like I've got to make a decision, I got to make a decision, is that it's a narrow energetic through which it comes from lack and
Yeah,
limitation. And it's a hard path for the universe to
right.
work through. So just I love that you just sat in your chair, be in a
Yeah.
place of allowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when you spoke too, what I wanted to say was that the thing that comes through me and is true when I do these practices is that this universal divine presence, God, is a principle that by principle loves me individually. Like the only way to know that, really know that, is to sit in my chair or whatever and connect with it. Because it changes everything to know that God loves me or God loves Cathy Norman so much that no matter what the market is saying, God wants to come through Cathy and Steve as a house that they love and enjoy. And the God and the universe celebrates us getting our desires, fulfilling our like way more than celebrating some competitive thing where people are grabbing for God. The universe celebrates and breathes life and light onto the planet when we allow God to work through us and bring us our individual desires. And it is a limitless source that no matter, this is so amazing because our mathematics, by human mathematics, and by the way we've been trained, we don't realize that there is something that is limitless and it loves each one of us individually. And the more we pull from it, the more there is to go around. And it's
Hmm.
so life changing. I was thinking about this
Yeah.
because when Raymond Charles Barker was speaking at the Lincoln Center and filling it, Emmett Fox was, I was like, what's going on nowadays? And I think sometimes there's not as many people speaking with authority about how really like transformative and different this way of thinking is relative. It can't be watered down and stay the same as what it has to be like revolutionary. It has to be. It's peaceful. It's not revolutionary like violent or something. It's revolutionary in my own mind, and it's this recognition that I am in heaven on earth now, and the only thing that ever gets in the way of me seeing that is my own beliefs and my own ideas that make that harder, and that
Yeah.
we came here to party and celebrate our divinity and bring it out now. There's no, all the stuff that I had lined up that I thought I had to do before that would happen. None of that is true. None, like
Hmm.
that is not based in principle at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think those early metaphysicians, they spoke the truth, they knew the truth, they practiced the truth, and there was no watering it down.
mhm.
Well, and they got results. And I think they got results because there wasn't so many social, and this has nothing to do with politics. There wasn't as much social training wheels available during that
Hmm.
time. There was no social security. There was no unemployment, insurance. The medical system was nothing like it is today. And so you were either all in buying
Hmm.
into this as being a reality that if I have the faith to believe in these things, I will be healed. I'm done. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you know what? I am going to just choose to believe that this life in me is going to transform me for the better, that I am able to heal, that this is not a death sentence, that my finances will turn around as long as I continue to believe that it's possible for them to turn around, and opportunities will come in spite of what everyone else is thinking. When you come from that place in that time, people bought in and they applied it and they all got results. And I think now a lot of the people, it's kind of, do I really have to buy in 100%? And a lot of people don't. I was fortunate. The ones, though, who are, for lack of a better word, desperate enough to buy in all the way, they get the results and they're here to stay because the proof is in the pudding. And I was just fortunate enough, in spite of all those social training wheels being in effect, and I was in the military, I had a job, but I got so sick and so overwhelmed with life that when this seemingly so unrealistic, way of living, and if you simply believe in this power for good that exists and believe that it'll work in your life and allow it to, it will. That I wanted to believe that was true, because to try to orchestrate everything like I thought I needed, I was done with that. So when it was presented to me, no, you could believe in the possibility of miracles and you will get miracles. And that the highest you get in life is happy. And you know what? If you just rid your mind of anything that's unlike love and choose to be happy, well, then you're going to get everything. You're going to get more in your life that reinforces the reality that you're happy. Just like gratitude brings more to be grateful for. And, in the beginning, I was getting immediately results. Within 30 days, things were transforming. So I was all in. So, yeah. And we do have people that share this truth. You do at Unity of Santa Barbara, unapologetically. But it's the willingness of the listeners that I think fills those halls, you know? Because it's available. And the good news is now it's available online. And it's available in podcasts. So it's getting to those individuals who really want it.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who need it, and we met a lot of them. I've met people who love attending these classes, but they love their ailments more. And they come to the classes over and over and over. They attend the classes, and then in between the classes when I see them, yeah, I really wanted to do the morning routine, but I was, this week I just wasn't feeling good. I'm thinking, I don't feel good every morning, but my mind knows that once I do my morning routine, it's going to transform everything. So, the people, so the line is always, it's for people who want it. It's not for people who need it. But yes, I mean, selfishly, for me and Ed, it'd be great if there were places we could go where there was someone like Emmett Fox and, people really like sharing this stuff unapologetically like you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that is incredible.
But we are that. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to more, is that Cathy Norman, you are that. You live that.
Thank you.
Speak that. And that's why you're one of the only people that I listen to. I don't even care. I don't listen to a lot of people. I don't really go to churches. I don't care. All I want to hear is the truth. It's based on principle. I've been studying it long enough that it is like chemistry. If you know the formulas, and I mean, you've been studying longer than me. So when I listen to you, I'm like, oh, okay. Like it simplifies it. And that's the thing. There's a lot of these words, but there's not everyone who really understands it like a science that it is. And you do.
Thank you.
And I do think the format through which it goes out there is different because people can't access it at home. They can't, like, I mean, couldn't access it, even in the 80s or whatever. Like,
Yeah, you
people
couldn't
couldn't
get
go
it
on their
at home.
computer and watch Cathy Norman. They had to go there, you know? So, like, a lot, like, the key is when it's lived and understood a certain way, it works. And those who are either desperate or inspired enough to use it get results. And that's what is amazing.
And that's why I love it. I actually do love it when people hit rock bottom, because then it's like there's nothing left. The ego is not going to, they surrender. They
Yes.
cast their burden onto the Lord. And once they do that, then that's when, there is this least resistance. The universe can come through in really magical ways. Sometimes when people come in for counseling and they're at their bottom, and I go, thank God, praise the Lord, good for
Yes.
you,
Yes.
because this is where we shine. This is where we
Yes.
go. And they
Yeah.
always do. They always
Yes.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so true. Because then when someone's like really feels stuck, and they say something and you go, do you realize you just said this? And then they actually hear themselves what they're saying. And then it can be that
Yes.
simple for the switch
Yes.
to flip in a really profound and meaningful way. I mean, they're no different than me. I just hit in my day, I hit it. I hit that bottom faster, and I'm more willing every day to shift whatever that misaligned thinking is. And the
Yes.
sooner, so it just, we're doing the same thing, but maybe just many more times each day, each week, and just being willing to play it like it's a game. It's fun in a way. This is what we
Yeah.
came here to do, and it's not something to be feared.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You want to read
I'm
some Joyce Kramer, by the way?
sure
This
I
goes
can do that.
this goes perfectly by what we have just been saying.
I love it. Here we
Us.
go.
Oh yeah, read
By
this, and I got a message for you.
Reading by Joyce Kramer. I thank God for the imagination, courage, and strength to make my ideal a reality. If you don't know where you want to go, you really can't go far in life. You must take time to look deep within your heart to discover your hidden dreams and secret desires. Once you know what they are, allow them to become your ideal. And then you can begin to work toward making it into a visible reality. Concentrate on your attention or concentrate your attention on your ideal. Think about it, look at it from all aspects, give it meditative thought and prayer. Next, visualize its fulfillment. Create a mental picture of your ideal as it will be when it is fulfilled. Get excited about it as if it were already done. Then do all that you can uh, to make your ideal real. Take whatever action you are guided to take, put energy, effort, and time into it. You can make your ideal a living reality. I go before you and level mountains. Isaiah 45:2. And then from Joseph Murphy, it says a magic formula for building confidence and success is to look into the mirror in the morning and then for about 5 minutes to affirm, if God be for me, who can be against me? I can do all things through the power which strengthens me. Make a habit of this, and you will be full of self confidence and faith in all things good, and wonders will happen in your life. Yay! Praise the Lord.
That is
I love
amazing.
it.
I want to read this other short one from Kramer because this goes
All right.
along with it too. You ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
And just so you know, folks, Joyce Kramer was a unity minister. She got ordained by Lowell Fillmore, and Nancy knew her. Did you ever meet Joyce
Oh,
Kramer?
yeah, I knew Joyce. Yeah.
So
Wow.
Joyce Kramer was one of those
Wow.
teachers that Ed was sharing that we admire. And listen to this one, Cathy. I believe in God's power of absolute good at work in and through my life and in the lives of others. If you believe, it is so for you. Your entire life is shaped according to your belief. This is the basic law of the universe. Jesus said, according to your faith, is it done unto you. Whatever you have believed in the past has helped make you what you are now. What you believe governs the type of experiences you are having. Whatever you choose to believe from now on will determine the conditions of your future. Believe in negative, undesirable, and destructive experiences, and they will appear in your life. Stop thinking and talking about and believing in the bad if you want to experience good. Protect yourself through wise believing. And then the biblical quote from Matthew chapter 8, verse 13, which is my favorite scene in that 70s movie. What's the title? Jesus of Nazareth?
Yes.
Sounds
right.
With the centurion. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go your way, as you have believed, so let it be done unto you. Ernest Borgnine played the centurion. It never left me as a child. That affected me because here was this strong military man, and he was humble enough to ask this guy for help because he loved his servant and was concerned about his servant who was far off at his house when he heard his servant was sick. And here's this military man with all this bravado, humble to the point of, yeah, you know, we heard this guy, he's can help people. All right, I'll go. And Jesus learned something new because this was the first time, because that's when he was almost like, whoa, wait a minute, what? To the centurion, because it was the one time in the Bible where he realized he didn't have to be physically with the person to heal them. He was so blown away by the centurion's explanation of how his faith in his own soldiers works. He was like, holy cow, then that would work too. We're all connected, meaning spiritually we're all one. So I don't have to be there. I can just make that of affirmation and belief in good for that person here, and they will benefit from it. Isn't that great stuff?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. That's very Emma Curtis Hopkins, man. She really, really nails that home. That like, if we're seeing something in the outer, it's actually an expression of our inner too. That like we need to heal something inside of our own brain. And when we do that, it will dissolve in every circumstance. It's truly amazing. It's great.
And Dr. Quimby, I mean, he was the first one that was in modern times, healing from a distance. You know, people would write him letters because he was throwing the weight of his faith on these principles.
Yeah. Yeah. Great way to get in tune is through gratitude too. We got to always because it's really about frequency, getting on the frequency. Wallace talks about, he says, faith is born of gratitude. The grateful mind continually expects good things, and expectation becomes faith.
Yeah.
The reaction of gratitude upon one's own mind produces faith. So if we're lacking faith, give thanks for the things around us. Every outgoing wave of grateful thanksgiving increases faith. The person who has no feeling of gratitude cannot long retain a living faith. And without a living faith, you can't get rich by this creative method.
Did you have something that's for Nancy on?
Oh, yeah. CC Gaitan, who's a prayer minister. Right?
Up at Unity of Ventura.
She's coming on the show next week. She said,
oh, great.
She said, Reverend Cathy, your dedication, passion, and the impact you make are truly inspiring.
Oh,
thank you for being such a positive influence in life. Keep shining your light.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of you and Steve, you know, sharing about getting your home, we have a little story from TMZ about you and Steve. Amazing story. This is one of the best stories that TMZ has ever given us about one of our guests to date.
I cannot wait to hear about it.
Well, apparently Cathy Norman lost her favorite Bible while she and Steve were out walking their dog in Ojai. 3 weeks later, while out on another walk, a coyote walked right up to Cathy, carrying the Bible in its mouth, and dropped it right at her feet. Cathy couldn't believe her eyes. She picked up this precious book, raised her eyes heavenward, and exclaimed,
"It's a miracle." And the coyote said, "Not really. Your name was written on the inside cover."
That is good. That's true. That is a true story, by the way.
So you're speaking Unity of Santa Barbara tomorrow, Sunday,
Tomorrow.
January 5th.
January 5th. If you're in town, if you're in LA or Santa Barbara, drop by. 10
come on
a.m. is
over.
the service. Showtime at 10 a.m.
We'll put a link to the stream in the notes for this podcast so people can check out the talk either live, later,
Oh,
whatever. So,
Yeah,
but
'cause
it is worth
There's
it.
many ways to tune in, tap in.
Yeah. All this talking, man, I wonder where I might intersect with church again because I actually do enjoy being in them. I was just thinking, I've been thinking about that lately. I just haven't been, I can't force myself to,
Yeah.
but I do
Yep.
like the experience. So I'm just, some reason when I was thinking about talking about that, I've been praying on that recently. And so
Yeah.
it's just a
Being in
thought.
community is really nice.
Yeah.
However it looks, it doesn't necessarily have to be a church,
Yeah.
but it is nice to have community.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I've noticed after COVID. So many people, and I'm one of them. I do all my meetings on Zoom. Many of my counseling appointments are on Zoom, and I miss the, being around people.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I got in spades as a public school teacher. And then
Yes,
I have so many
indeed.
great people I'm around all the time. That's why it's like, it's going to have to be a very certain thing that would make that have to happen there. Anyway, just something to
Yep.
think about. All right. Well, thank you, Cathy Norman. We love you.
Thank you. I
Um,
love you guys. Thank you
Gidget.
so much. And your audience, I bless you and appreciate you and value you. Thank you for tuning in today.
Gidget came in. She's our studio manager to let
I
us know.
know.
It's
Gidget, it's
yes, Gidget
so
is
cute.
she is the Australian stumpy tail cattle dog. If you're listening on the podcast app, you can also view us on YouTube and see Gidget in person.
yes.
And she's telling us it's time for the outgoing song, the
Yeah.
number.
Why don't we just say thank you for being a part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. And please subscribe and share the show with your friends. Like the video if you're watching it on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. You ready?
I'm ready.
Overture, curtain lights. This is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing apart. We know every part by heart. Overture, curtain lights. This is it. You'll hit the heights. Oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it. Tonight, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it. Woohoo!
That
Happy New Year.
yes,
Happy New Year.
that song is from Bugs Bunny.
Looney Tunes. All right.
God bless you.
God bless
Bye.
you. Have a great
Bye-bye.
afternoon.